It's bad, like, you know, it's hard some minor ones that I'm like, I'm not talking more. The certified, and I said, you need to do that. Yeah, I said, I like press every hour. To get up and stand and do that stretch, like I saw, yeah, like those. I love it. I come home and I'm so tired to get my shoulders. Oh, yeah.
I'll do it back to the good morning.
Good morning. I can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Yes, yes, no, just take.
We can hear you as well.
Yeah. Right, everybody rushes. Just. Pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk could call the roll.
Ms. Bagley.
Here.
Ms. Bailey, present. Ms. Blumkey.
Here.
Ms. Franklin. Mr. Gordy. Ms. Hayes.
Here.
Ms. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Karantonis.
Here.
Ms. Vasquez Luna.
Presente.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Ms. Mensing.
Here.
Mr. Stork.
Here.
And Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Fabulous. Thank you. This morning, Ms. Luna has requested to participate in the meeting remotely due to being out of town on travel. There being a quorum physically present, do I have a motion and a second to allow Ms. Luna to participate electronically?
So moved.
All right, I've got a motion by Supervisor Bailey and a second by Ms. Holmes. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Actually, Ms. Luna can't vote until we pass this motion. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Ms. Luna is welcome to participate in the meeting. Dallas, could you cover a safety moment?
Yes, good morning. Assignments in the back of the room. Chris, I know we're all recently trained. Could you be CPR? You know where the AED is. Sarah, could you be our caller? And Anaya, could you ask you to be our runner? Exits are marked, placards. Please be careful and push in chairs and watch for tripping hazards in the room. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge how much I appreciate these safety moments and the investment that VRE and its staff makes. I know you all recently, I think you're going to cover this. I don't want to steal your thunder, but the reinvestment that they've made at the organization, everybody learning CPR and first aid. So just encourage, I've tried to begin this practice at little events that I'm at, that I'm responsible for, and just encourage all of you to. Yeah.
It's contagious and the right kind of.
It's the best kind of contagion. With that, the agenda was previously circulated. If I could have a motion to approve. Thank you, Ms. Bonke and Ms. Bailey. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Luna, how do you vote on the agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is adopted. Moving on to approval of the minutes from the November 21st, 2025 Operations Board meetings. Do we have any corrections or amendments to the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ms. Luna, how do you vote on the minutes?
Aye.
Thank you. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are adopted. That gets us to our chair comments. So good morning. Welcome to the December board meeting of the VRE Operations Board. A few weeks ago, this has already been a few weeks. A few weeks ago, I joined VRE and NBTC Executive Director Kate Mattice at the Scottish Walk in the city of Alexandria. I hope you all saw photos and videos and heard Dallas's booming ho ho ho's. It was fabulous. I mean, and y'all were pretty deep in the parade, but the enthusiasm levels, you know, as they went by were really high. And so I also draw attention to, I think Dallas was the one who somehow fed into AI VRE's colors and had a tartan produced, a VRE appropriate tartan that was wrapping the float. So it was wearing its own sort of tartan appropriate kilt. It was pretty amazing. So thank you to everyone at VRE who volunteered, who built the float, who maintains it. We look forward to having you again next year. Next, as members of the board might know, but should know, today is actually Supervisor Bonke's last day, last meeting with us.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I have it in the chair comments.
I'm not glad.
So Ms. Bonke's tenure on the Stafford County Board of Supervisors is coming to an end. Ms. Bonke has been a public servant since 2010. She first served on the Stafford County School Board and then joined the Board of Supervisors in 2014. And as somebody who has served only half that time, my goodness, like congratulations to you for that record of service. Meg has been an alternate on the VRE Operations Board in 2015 and was appointed a primary member to the Ops Board in 2020. She served as the chair of the Finance Committee in 21, 22, and 23. And I can also attest, Meg is never not on the Finance Committee. Meg always has,
Watching the money.
always has her eyes on the money and on the finances, which we appreciate. Last year, Ms. Bonke, Supervisor Bonke, was the VRE Operations Board Chair, and she led us through many significant achievements, including the completion of the improvements to the Fredericksburg and Quantico stations, topping out of the Manassas Park parking garage, revamping VRE's fare schedule, reinstatement of the cross-honor agreement with MARC, and a continued increase in ridership, particularly midweek, that we saw last year. we are very grateful to her service as well on the CEO search committee. Again, I'll express Meg was a vital partner to me and the entire team in that process. She has been dependable, grounded, and very insightful on VRE Operations Board, and she will be sorely missed. Now, on behalf of the VRE Operations Board, I'd like to present Supervisor Bomke with a small token of appreciation as we wish her well in her next chapter.
Oh my
So
God.
we have a little token for you, and can I present it to you? And can we get a little photo? And I want to give you a chance to say anything if you want.
Thank you. Oh,
Okay. Do a better side.
No.
Okay.
no.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. That's for Carrie. And then I'll give you the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you.
You guys will take points today.
That's great.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say is thank you. I'm just so honored and humbled that, you know, the constituents in my district allowed me to, you know, be an elected official and had their trust in me and, you know, and that my board allowed me to serve for VRE. And, you know, we have phenomenal staff here. And the inclusion of Mike and Bob Schneider and Katie. And now our new attorney. This is just a phenomenal group of people, and we're very fortunate that we all get to work together in this arrangement for keeping, hopefully someday, 18,000 plus people off the interstate. So thank you again, and I'm very honored and humbled, and I will miss all of you. I know you will continue to do great work here at VRE.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Supervisor Bomke. I want to just express again that this board is special for some of the reasons you highlighted, the people who serve. It's also for many of us, the only place where we serve with people from different parties, from different geographies, from different backgrounds. And I know I have benefited so much, you know, from that experience and from our time on the exec committee together since my joining. And so truly, thanks to you. I know how much you cared about this work and the time you put into it. And the staff would say the same, you know, how they hear from you, they get good questions. And I just want to encourage all of you that, you know, let's follow sort of, you know, in the path that Meg has led us in here and continue to engage, you know, deeply with this work and with each other. So thank you so much, Meg.
Thank you.
With that, the CEO report.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, I'm
would
sorry.
actually yield the floor for a moment there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. I
very
didn't see you
much.
behind me.
No, it's okay. It's the hair.
I
and
know.
I love it. We have so much fun, but we'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to you
Oh,
for your great work and just leading us in the way that you did. You have such a great way of embracing and including everyone in your leadership and making sure that, you know, there's a diverse thought process in what we do. And that is very important in what we do. You have led us tremendously in two different processes. We have our wonderful council that we hired almost a year? No?
not even 6 months.
I know. Seems like a year. No. But you led us in that wonderful process, and we've gotten an exceptional counsel to come and represent us at the VRE board. And then lastly, you led us in the process of making sure that we had a new CEO to take this wonderful organization to the next height. And so we appreciate you as a board. We appreciate your inclusivity. We appreciate the respect that you have for what we're doing here on the VRE board and how you represent us. So with that, can you come forward?
Oh, goodness.
This is on behalf of the board.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's something?
Yeah.
Okay, this is on behalf of the board, and this is also on behalf of the team that you have at VRE. We appreciate your leadership, and so thank you for lending your time, your talents, and having a balance while you're doing it. So this is on behalf of the board. You're welcome. Thank you. Yes,
So
yes,
kind.
you're kind.
I'm not going anywhere though. Let's be.
No, no.
Did I lose the election that I was?
Wish.
We'll let you know, and we'll catch you another.
So you want to-
You're fine.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
a lovely way to start the meeting. All right. And yeah, thank you all so much. Yeah, that's touching. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. All right, with that, I want to move to, as Sarah had, the chair had alluded to about safety. I recently finished Atomic Habits, if anyone want to recommend this book, and safety is our habit. It's not, it's just part of our culture. It becomes ingrained. And we've recently completed our, every 2 years, we basically go through, the entire staff goes through CPR first aid training. We've recently completed that process. I think by the end of January, every person in the organization will be CPR basic first aid qualified, which is important, not when you're just when you're at work, right? Those skills go with you anywhere you go and with your family and friends and those sorts of things. So I appreciate the staff who make that happen and the fact that we're willing to do it. Also, I'll report, just because we had a report on the last month's, but 0 accidents or incidents since the time of my last report, which is also good news. Again, on that track record of safety and the habit of making it important. So with that, next, on-time performance. If you compare the last month, we are at 87% versus same month last year, 80%. A very steady 87, 86, 88 sort of pattern you will see. Very, very close to our 90% target, and doing quite well. I want to point out on this slide for you, though, a few things that work. So number one, it was a short month. It's 17 days of service versus the typical 20 or 22 days of service, which again affects the average. But look at this number here for our system-wide late trains, right? 119 to 82 to 71. So we had less late trains by a significant amount, but it didn't result in, so we had a higher 88% last month, 87% this month. The point is the numbers do the math, right? The numbers do it for you, if you will, in the sense that we're down on the late trains. Also to point out, now granted, we had 9 trains over 30 minutes, which affects that average delay. So average delay was about 15 minutes, but if you look at the median, right, we're at like 10 minutes. So the point of that is, if you get on one of our trains, it's almost 90% chance you're going to be on time. If you're not on time, it's a 50% chance it'll be 10 minutes or less, right? That sort of 10-minute window. So I challenge anyone on 95 to do better than that on a monthly basis. So seriously. So the news is, like, the operation is going smoothly. We are doing well and continuing that and moving along. So that is a credit to the staff, our Keolis team, the VRE operations team, and staying on top of these things and working closely together to do it. Just quickly summary on this one. I'll move through these next 2 PTC primary mechanical, a couple of those issues this month. Train delays. Sorry, this is in front of me. I'm going to move over to ridership, right? It was tough. We had the shutdown that ended in November, affecting those numbers. Obviously, we're at about, I'll move to the next slide. That was a monthly one, 8268, again, affected by those number of service days. We're currently running, immediately after the shutdown, our ridership went up 10%, literally overnight, from the day before. And then following that month, basically we're right around 10,000 riders on average. I'm looking at Chris to nod, but roughly 10,000 trips a day right now currently. So it's looking really good for the month of December. Not typically a high month for us, but we will see it, obviously a tick of that with the holiday season, especially with the Thursday holiday.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
so Dallas, if I may, back to those numbers,
Sure.
if you will. So I know we've projected in the budget this year 9,300, and I believe we've even brought that number down from a higher number. So when I look at like the 10,007 for September, do we know what's now? Obviously, November is different, and then we had the shutdown. Do you think we're going to tease back up?
We've already started back up in that
Okay.
10,000 range in December. And so really the October, November shutdown was defeat us in these numbers in this graphic. We're seeing it come back up already. December, you'll see closer to 10,000. Granted, it'll be a little low because of the holidays, but that will, that'll be affected. But the 9,300 in the budget, we have to make our best guess, right? Every year we look at history. One that is a bit unknown for us, obviously, is the work windows coming. And so we have to be conservative. We have made certain assumptions, mathematical assumptions about, okay, we know how many people ride train 332 and 334 that are affected by that. We assume a certain percentage will go to the new train 330. Some will continue on those trains and get on Metro, and then a small percentage may choose not to ride here, which is a serious impact. For that reason, we've reduced that overall ridership on an annual basis, annualize it down to 93. Carry that in the budget.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's where those numbers come from, but we do expect it to go back up in December.
Okay.
Okay? Any other questions? All right, with that, I just want to mention a couple of things. The Santa Trains is a magical moment. Mark has said it before that kids love trains and kids love Santa, and the combination is pretty spectacular. I personally had the opportunity for the first time as not a Santa, but to work the operations with Chris and the team at Fredericksburg, and thank you for being there. And being in Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania and watching that operation from a different perspective, I can't tell you how much work it is. Like, it is so much work. There's 13 trains, there's 26 Santas and Mrs. Clauses and elves galore and bands and choirs and all the things that go into it. It is well worth it. I've been told, I have reason to believe that VRE is the single largest donor of toys for Toys for Tots, and we record that in the Fredericksburg region because that's where they're collected at the yard and donated there. We collect on the train, we collect at the event, and you can see the bags of toys just at this one location. So it's literally a truckload of toys that we donate from this event. I'm proud of this event every year and more proud of it after seeing it from a different perspective this year. So different kind of magic, if you will. I also want to just take a moment to report, it's not in my notes, but since we met last, we stood up a new train. Train 330 was stood up on December 1st. In order to do that, we opened Seminary Yard for service, which was a pretty remarkable effort on everyone's part, both infrastructure, operations, maintenance. Everybody has really thrown their weight into that one to make it happen, and it was very successful, fairly flawless, I would say. Credit to Chris and the team and Keolis for helping make that happen. So we're continuing with that. Next.
Can
Sure.
we take a pause? So this is my last meeting, so I won't talk at the next meeting. I just have to say, Madam Chair, and Dallas and the team, and I just thank Chris and his people down at the Fredericksburg line. I know of people that were standing in line to get tickets, and I just have to thank you all for everything you did for all those people that were standing out there in the cold for at least an hour. They handed out hot chocolate to people. They came out and said, it's going to be another 20 minutes before you get inside. And I mean, they just said it was unbelievable service and kindness, and it was appreciated by people. And I'm sorry I couldn't be at the train, but I know the 6 tickets that I got made it was a Christmas gift to this entire family and the little boy who is all about trains. And so I just can't thank you enough. And your team out there was remarkable. And thank you for those extra efforts of handing out hot chocolate, because that's not something you have to do, but it was very much appreciated.
Thank you. I will say, in the theme of habits, it's not what we do, it's who we are.
Yeah.
It's who we are. And I look at the team in the back of this room that made that happen. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, on to, we have something coming soon. As of January 12th, we've been working closely with our host railroads, with VPRA, as it relates to the work windows coming for the Long Bridge construction. It is set to begin on January 12th. So before we see you again, we will have a significant impact to the schedule and the ridership. I wanted to share with you what is coming, so if questions come about, and what we are doing. So to be clear, there are 2 trains on each line, 332 and 334 on the Manassas line, 312 and 314 on the Fredericksburg line. Those are the last 2 trains of the day in the morning service. Because of the work windows, those trains will have to terminate at Alexandria. We're going to take those trains and put them at Seminary Yard because they can't go north into Ivy City Coach Yard. So the passengers on those 2 trains will have several options. One is to obviously they could get off the train and move over to Metro into work on those last 4 stations, whether it be Crystal City, LaFont, or Union Station. The last 3 stations, sorry, going north. Other options are they could move to an earlier train. We just stood up 3:30. It's about 30 minutes earlier. If they can, juggle their schedule, work or otherwise, they can get on that train. We expect a lot of people will do that on the Manassas line. That train is already increased in popularity. And then, of course, if they choose not to ride and do something else, that'll be wonderful for traffic, I'm sure. But those are the options. One of the things we're doing is zone 2, basically. Because of the departure in the afternoon, riders can save money by purchasing a zone 2. We'll only check for zone 2. We'll honor, if you will, zone 2 tickets coming south. So if they're buying their ticket, a monthly pass, for instance, they can save by not having to save money by not having to pay for zone 1. They only have to purchase basically the zone 2 for that ride. And so therefore those monies can be used to offset any metro cost if they have to. Using their smart benefits, they can allocate that accordingly to purchase their ticket or use it for the metro system. So my point here, and so in the afternoon, basically their commute will be the same. All of the trains will be available, but we will have to do what we call the Alexandria Shuffle. So what that means is those trains that will be parked at Seminary may or may not go all the way to Union Station, but they will go to Alexandria, where the train coming out of Union Station will meet them at Alexandria. So all the Fredericksburg passengers and all the Manassas line passengers get on the same train. They get off at Alexandria. Those getting on Manassas line get on the other train and head on their direction, and Fredericksburg goes south. So it basically it's the shuffle in the afternoon, but essentially leaving at the same time. All the trains are available. So it is I don't want to in any way minimize the impact or talk it down. It is real impact to our passengers that we want to recognize, but we are taking every measure we can to mitigate that, whether it be with the fare or with the timing as best we can. Are there and just we are broadcasting this in every way we know how. So there are train talks going out. We have staff lined up on January, the first week back. So we have 1 week back after the holidays to prepare for this. We are going to put staff at every one of the stations. We're going to do a seat drop on the trains so they get a QR code, see the new schedule, see the impacts, see what can be done to mitigate it. We were reluctant to broadcast any of this information before it was finalized, and it was just finalized last week, essentially. So we have a full month, right? People have a full month from December 12th to January 12th to know what they can do, update their supervisors on their change in schedule, whatever that looks like. So that's what we're doing. Questions, Ms. Bates?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to just reiterate, that's one of the things that the board has really been talking about continually, is just making sure that the communication is pumped up, it's effervescent, it's letting the ridership know what's going on, so there's no confusion, and we're bringing them along with the progress that we're making. And so I just have a sense of appreciation for the things that you're doing to bring the community and us along with this process.
Sure. And it's all about timing, and we were reluctant. It's a matter of timing with that communication. So for instance, we didn't want to confuse the communication about train 330 with the work bonus. We had to get one out of the way before the other. And now we're in that process. Lindsay's doing a great job working with our teams on the operations side as well, broadcasting this information through the proper channels. And this is one of them today, like people listening or your members, your jurisdictions, you go back and there are questions, just point them to the website. Like we will get them all the information, have them call the front desk, get them all the information they need. Okay.
Ms. Holmes?
I just want to know, when you were talking about the Alexandria Shuffle, how long, like, it sounds like those trains are leaving on time to get to Alexandria. How long are we thinking the shuffle will take?
It's a few minutes typically, right?
Okay, really?
Our dwell times are relatively short for the industry. Like normal dwell time for us is about 90 seconds on station. They may double or triple that in this 6 minutes, if you will. Depends on how many passengers on that train have to get off and get on the next one. But our intentions are, I'm still working through the details, like we can actually depart those trains towards Alexandria at the same time and have them double stacked on the platform to make that go even faster, potentially, right? Those are the things that we're looking at, trying to work through with the host railroads. I think Joe has a comment to add.
If I can just add to it, also, we're going to have staff the week before the change and the week of the change.
Yeah.
The different stations
Good.
for those trains. We're going to be there and keep reminding people, hey, if you take this train's not going to come to Crystal City starting next week, or it's not going to come to the station next week. So anybody who rides regularly on those trains is going to see us, and we're going to be able to tell.
Yeah, we have postcards for the seat drop. They'll hand them out at the station, sandwich board signs at the station all the week before, and then again the week of.
And maybe to address the question as well, the metro station is like in, I don't know how often everybody here, I mean, it's my home area, but you step off the train and you're looking, off the VRE train and you see the train. So the proximity, it's about a 6-minute walk to sort of get down off of one and up to the other. And with the 6-minute headways or so that Metro is averaging, we expect it to be a fairly seamless. You're not going to have to run because the next one isn't for 12 or 15 minutes. The concept is you won't have to pay attention to when the next Metro train is coming through, because it's within 6 minutes. So you'll either walk up and get right on one, or you'll be waiting, 2, 3, 4 minutes. It's an easy, it's a physically easy, and it's a short and very visually, easy thing to navigate at the Alexandria end.
And I'll add that all 4 of those stations co-locate with Metro. Alexandria, Crystal City, and LaFont and Union Station. They all are next to a Metro. So that's pretty convenient.
Yeah. The last thing I just wanted to highlight for us and who may hear from constituents on this is, so there is this landing page, vre.org/Longbridge, and it has an FAQ on it. And as y'all get questions or comments from, constituents, if you can pass those forward to VRE so that they can be updating the FAQ and sort of, recognize, because that's something I assume, somebody in the back nod at me, whether that's doable, but so that the FAQ can sort of be responsive to the questions that we're getting once this gets going. And I'll point out, and I'll say it here because we're getting this question anywhere we talk about this. The work has to be done during the day, because DC has very strict rules about noise and vibration at night. So I just want to assure anybody impacted by this, all efforts have been made to have that conversation, but this is the route we have to go to get this done.
Very good.
Yeah.
So I understand this is for Longbridge. I think it'll also help with Longfont. Dallas, can you tell us where we're at with the Long? It'll help to have, once we have a contractor, what I think they'll probably like the fact that there's a work window work with. Can you tell us where we're at with the Longbridge? I'm sorry, the Longfont procurement?
Sure. Longfont, before I get into Longfont, there will be construction projects at all 4 of those stations ongoing, right? That may be positively impacted by the reduction of trains during normal work hours, right? So that may be a silver lining in all respects. About LaFont, question about LaFont is where do we stand? So we came to the board back in May to ask for permission to solicit a CMGC procurement. It is not uncommon. Here we are in December. The CMGC procurement will be delivered publicly for the RFQ in January. I recognize that's a few months. It is not uncommon for the time from the permission to solicit and the actual solicitation. 6 months or more is not uncommon. You'll see that across the board. That is not our goal, obviously, but it is not uncommon practice. So we'll be soliciting in for that project in January. To add to that, though, it is our VRE's first ever CMG solicitation. And so the novelty of it is giving us caution, especially given the size of the project, the total value of the project, which is even greater than Alexandria, which was a $130 million project. So we are very cautious, right? Be quick, but don't hurry. And also that currently, and I think this will pan out in the future, that given the construction schedule, our stated objective is to finish on or either before or preferably before or at the finish of Longbridge. So that would be the 2030, essentially, end of 2030. Right now, that's a 5-year calendar. We expect a 3-year construction cycle. We are in that mode, right, where we're going to get our contractor on board, finish the design, go to construction, and sequence that out in the last piece. I also want to be clear, we've been busy at LaFont. Just because we haven't put the solicitation out doesn't mean we haven't been working. And we've been working hard with our design team to do all the work necessary for, the unusual Fine Arts Council of DC to approve our bridges, and DDOT to approve the overhead clearances and utility clearances. So a lot of work is happening on the project, despite the CMGC, but we are moving forward with that and very, very excited. So I hope that answers your concern, Mike, and knows that we are moving and moving quickly. The pace of that will pick up once the CMGC goes on the street.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
And I think what I would highlight for the board and encourage, my colleagues here to be mindful of is we need to be thinking backwards from 2030. Like as you know, as we meet over the next 5 years, we need to not just be asking like, how is it going moving forward? But if 2030 is the landing point, where do we need to be in 2029 and 2028? And are we taking those steps to be there? I think we have to be thinking about it from both ends, because if all the smaller projects aren't done when the bridge is done, you know, the bridge, the trains won't go across the bridge. So I would just encourage all of us as we're reviewing board items and asking questions, you know, to be mindful, not just of how the project is moving forward, but looking at it from the end game and moving backwards.
Yes.
But I know that's something that the engineers and the team, the VRE is doing as well.
Yeah. Ops and engineering.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Madam Chair. That is so important because that also helps us with consistent ridership. And that's the thing that we have to keep our eyes on. And so I so agree with you on that, just thinking from backwards to forwards. And again, I have to keep reiterating the communication of that, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I agree. And it's about that reliability, regardless of how many trains you're running, right? Or where they're going. We want them to be reliable, right? Ridership doesn't affect on-time performance, but on-time performance will affect ridership.
That's right.
Right. And so we want to be clear that we will maintain that reliability and on-time performance throughout the process. That's been our goal. All right.
Anything else in your?
That concludes my.
Oh, okay, wonderful. All right. That gets us to public comment. VRE accepts public comments both in person and electronically via the VRE website. Members of the public wishing to make public comments have 3 minutes and should state their full name and the jurisdiction they live in. Written comments submitted before 8 a.m. this morning will be forwarded to the members of the board and attached to the official minutes. Do we have any members of the public who would like to address the board? Don't see any. Madam Clerk, do we have any electronically submitted comments?
Madam Chair, we had one that I received this morning and I have forwarded it to you, and it's in relation to the proposed budget.
I saw that comment. It popped up in my box around 9:26 or so. I'm not, yeah, which is fine. I'm just I'm pointing that out to anybody in the room who might be looking for it in their own inbox. If we want to take a look at that and perhaps address it later in the agenda when we're talking about the budget. And that way people will have a chance maybe to find the comment in their message, but just confirming we did receive it.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, we're going to move on to action items. I'm going to ask Dallas, and if there's no objection from the board, if we can present items A, B, and C, have Dallas present all three and potentially take those in a block vote as they're very similar and related items. Are there any objections or discussion on that proposal? All right, Dallas, then if you could present A, B, and C.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Operations Board is asked to recommend approval and authorization to execute a capital project funding addendum with VPRA for the Woodbridge Station Platform Extension Project. And similarly, the Operations Board is asked to recommend approval for the authorization of capital project funding addendum with VPRA for Backlake Road Platform Project. And item C, Operations Board is asked to recommend approval and authorization to execute capital project funding addendum with VPRA for Rolling Road Platform Extension Project. A quick background. VPRA, basically all of our state capital projects funding agreements come through VPRA now. There's a few through DRPT, but primarily with VPRA through a master of funding agreement. And each one of the projects are attached as an addendum to that master funding agreement. These are projects 2 future, 1 past, right? So we just need to true up the funding, move some funding around, do some things to get things squared away for works we have planned. You can see that one is CMAQ monies. I think the first 2 are CMAQ monies. The third one is funding addendum. Forget the source on this one. I'm sorry, but the point being that to get this all trued up, each project is that we could go to the commissions and get this completed.
Any questions or comments on these 3 items? I think I just share, you know, in my dialogue with Dallas, that he's used the phrase true up a few times, but I think these were to be expected and
Yes, that's right, yeah.
necessary. And so this doesn't indicate anything has gone wrong or really gone sideways. It's just there's certain things you have to let play out
Yes.
before you can finalize them. And so just want to give assurances in that regard.
And not to mix this one, but we will come with, there's a fourth one for Alexandra we need to do for coming in the coming months. We'll get that one next month. It just was too complicated to get on this one, but the same point, right? That getting this all squared away.
Okay, with that, I would take a motion to approve items 9A, B, and C.
So moved. Second.
All right, so there's a motion by Ms. Hayes, a second by Ms. Bailey. Any further conversation, comments? All right, Ms. Luna, how do you vote on the motion? Thank you, ma'am. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 9A, B, and C carry unanimously. Dallas, could you introduce 9D?
9D, the Operation Board is asked to authorize acting CEO to amend the contract for final design services for VRE Broad Run Expansion Project with GFT, there's a typo in this one, Infrastructure Incorporated, formerly Trans Systems Corporation, in the amount of the amount stated in the item, that will bring the total contract amount not to exceed $11.45 million. This item is basically we are here to offer where we stand on the project. We are 90% design. The original contract goes back to 2021. We have had a number of redesign requests of them. They have carried that obviously burden, if you will, over the life of this contract. For example, those who were here at the time may remember we had sought properties on what is the west side of the corridor that were not available. But even before that, we had a concept design for pedestrian bridge, moved into design for the pedestrian tunnel rather, and then that switched to a pedestrian bridge for cost reasons and availability. And so then, but basically, when the parking wasn't permitted on that side, we abandoned those both altogether and did a redesign for those efforts. Additionally, we've had, looking at budget constraints and design efforts to meet, bless you.
Excuse me.
But those budget constraints and honoring those pieces that Trans Systems has done for us over time, and now wanting to get to the final piece. We are in permitting right now with the county, so we're very close to that finish line. This project is very important to us to get it over the finish line because of the car delivery. We have 10 cars coming from the 21 cars we're working with to be delivered at this facility. That has to be done. You may remember the special track work piece we came to you a month or two ago for that early works package. So that's how it's related. That's the importance of this item. And if there's any questions on them.
Did I see any? Oh, Ms. Bailey.
I saw her finger.
Oh.
I just wanted to just comment that we appreciate the continuum of this project because it is an example of what Madam Chair was mentioning before about us keeping our eye on everything. And this is, like, as you said, Dallas, 2021. And so you didn't stop until you got it right. And we really appreciate that because this is a continuum of what we're trying to do in the grand scheme of things, and we need it.
Indeed, and I appreciate that. We have put together a pretty robust, what we're calling our program delivery schedule of all the projects, a master schedule of all the projects. Every project has its own schedule, but then when you pile them in with the TRV projects that we are trying to meet up with, Long Bridge and others, it's all sort of falling in place. It's also creating a glut of projects in this 5-year window that we talk about. So it's a lot going on, but this is one we've made slow, steady progress over time, and we're right at that finish line.
And I think this is a nice moment also. VRE was represented at the NBTC legislative panel.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge that CFO Mark Schofield stepped in. Dallas was unfortunately derailed by a train and couldn't make the panel. But one of the comments that Mark made on the panel, and that I've heard him make in other places, is that VRE spent years planning. If you came to these meetings in 2015 to 2020, you heard a lot of plans, and now it's building. Now there's a lot of work. And so projects like this being at 90% design and the queuing up of some of the things we're talking about is really emblematic of the building phase that we are in. And it was really nice to sort of at the legislative forum where, WMATA was on the stage and several other transit organizations, but just sort of hear VRE being talked about as a builder. We're building a lot of things, we're expanding in a lot of ways. So this particular, board item, I think, aligns with that messaging.
Yes, and I'm going to come to you in February with what's next, which is maintaining all that stuff.
Right.
So let it be known.
So any other questions or comments on item 9D?
I'll move for approval of GFT infrastructure.
Second.
Thank you both. Ms. Luna, how do you vote on the motion 9D?
Aye.
Thank you, ma'am. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Dallas, 9E.
All right. Along this theme, the operations board is asked to authorize the acting chief, CEO to issue a maintenance services for commuter rail task order to Keolis Rail Services of Virginia, LLC, for seminary maintenance and storage facility phase 1A track improvements in the amount stated in the item. So probably unbeknownst to the board, unless you look closely at the spending authority, right? Back in August, Rich approved an item to go do some track repairs, track improvements at Seminary Yard. That work was completed at the end of basically in November. Essentially, we were working through that to get that December 1 stood up date for. What that gave us was up to 5. First of all, that new train 330 and up to 5 consists at the south end of Seminary Yard. This task, above that authority, so we're coming for this ask. This task order with Keolis will now allow us to finish out the northern end of the yard, including entry off of the main line to go in and out the north, as well as in and out the south, and store upwards of 14 consists based on our new consist makeup. Because of the new train, we've changed from 8-car to 6-car sets. This would allow us essentially to put our entire fleet in the yard when necessary. I just want to connect the dots. We have a contractual obligation agreement with Amtrak that says we have to exit Ivy City Coach Yard by the end of 2028. And therefore, that overlaps with the 5-year duration of the work window. So in the time of this work window period, we'll have to have all of our consists out of Ivy City Coach Yard. This gives us a place to put them. So this will effectively complete phase 1 of Seminary for less time and less money than we predicted in the beginning, which is good. It'll serve us in perpetuity until we get phase 2 designed, permitted, and completed as well. So very exciting, very important. It'll also, I'll offer to Mike, it might be a place to put other trains as necessary in the short term, other than VRE if we have to. So working through some of those items now.
Madam Chair, yeah, I want to say thank you to Dallas for working this through. We've been in close coordination, especially as it pertains to Norfolk Southern. As VRE does not yet have the ownership of Seminary Yard, and VRE does. We've had a few meetings with Norfolk Southern to make sure they can still maintain what they need to do in the area without harming the train coming in and out of Seminary Yard and on the main line. So we've had a good communication with Dallas and with Norfolk Southern, and then CSX. We'll pour all in this very critical area.
Yeah. No, I think this is an ongoing part of the story of VRE being in its partnership with EPRA being more in control of its operations, of its storage. And I think that's exciting, and having to maintain that is a piece of that obligation, Yeah. So that's what we're talking about here.
So I'll offer that again for board information. We have a purchase agreement for the yard. Mm-hmm. We don't own it yet, but think of this work we've been doing as we're sprucing up the place before we move in, right? We haven't closed on the house. Chris's analogy, I like this one. I like Chris Cover in the back there, right? So, in that we are getting things ready to move in, and but we're living in the basement as we do it, kind of thing. So it's very exciting, but a lot of work as well. So
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to look at one of the cameras, and sort of see, literally the trains coming in and parking and how it's going. And it's very gratifying to sort of see that progress and what's going on there. Any other questions or comments about this item 9E? All right, with that, I entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Is there a second? So thank you, Ms. Hayes. Any other comments on the motion? Ms. Luna, how do you vote on 9E? We still have Ms. Luna.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you,
Oh,
ma'am.
there she is. Thank you, ma'am. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. That passes. Moving on to 9F.
Yes, all right. So the board is asked to authorize execution of a sole source contract with Progress Rail Locomotive Incorporated of Illinois in the amount stated for the purchase of new locomotive master controllers and the bezel assemblies with them. So in the spirit of our ongoing life cycle maintenance program, we have basically 15-year-old locomotives. This is one of those parts in need of replacement. It's literally like the throttle. Think of it as the bezel and the piece that literally controls the train, the locomotive rather. And by virtue of the age of the locomotive, the age of this part, it's time to be replaced. I would offer also, we have lessons learned from the MB contactor purchase, which was not a sole source, which we had less than desirable results from that. We learned a lesson, and we think that sole sourcing these parts for these locomotives and cars makes a lot of sense, and we'd like to pursue this one. And if you're wondering why 19 and not 20, because we have 20 locomotives, it's because we purchased one and installed as a proof of concept before purchasing. So there's my report.
We've talked about sole source in the past, but yeah, Mr. Stork.
I understand and I think there's value added here, and I think that obviously that's the work that you guys have done to make sure that whatever additional costs there may be has a value that's greater than the additional costs, which is what.
Yes, that's way to put it.
What's the, and I don't recall, what's the life cycle of a locomotive?
I'm going to turn to Sarah in the back.
Roughly 30 years.
30 years?
Yeah, 30. We're about halfway.
Yeah, that's what it's curious. All right, thank you.
And they take a while to get, right? The new ones take about 8 years, we're told. So,
Wow.
yeah. All right.
So with that, yeah, no, any other questions or comments on this item? No, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move for approval. Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bailey, and that was Ms. Holmes. Thank you. Any other discussion or questions on 9F? All right, Ms. Luna, how do you vote on 9F? Thank you, ma'am. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any, is that was an aye. Okay. Just trying to keep me on my toes. I appreciate that. All right. And then any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 9G, Dallas.
All right. The board is asked to authorize the acting chief executive to exercise a second option year of the 2 contracts for delivery of diesel fuel for VRE with, and I'll name the James River Solutions for our Broad Run facility and GPM Empire LLC for at our Crossroads facility for the amount stated in the item. To be clear, this is for July, starting in July. And this method of delivery, basically buying on futures, gives us the ability to eliminate volatility in this market, in this purchase, and more predictability in the budget. We do have a consultant that we use for the futures consulting on this, looking outward at 6 months to a year in advance for these purchases. So with that, if there's any questions.
Do we have any questions on this topic, or it's something I think we deal with regularly?
Yes.
Renegotiating this?
Yes.
All right.
And right now, purchase price is less than our budgeted price.
It's mostly just more context. You may not know the answer, but obviously prices like this go up and down. We understand that. And I know you mentioned earlier that there's been previously that using a consultant to help you determine how to budget that. Do we have any sense of over time how we've done with our planning versus the actual costs?
I know where we are right now. I can't speak to history. Mark perhaps can, but we can come back with history more later if you need to. But Mark, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we tend to budget diesel pretty conservatively. So I think in most years we've been under the budget.
Yeah.
And we are currently running under the budget right now. I think if you were to go back to some of the periods, to where the prices were really volatile, then yes, we have had to dip into contingency in order to cover higher prices. We could go back and do a more of a historical kind of analysis and bring that.
Or one in order of magnitude,
So the order,
5% or 10%, or just because that, when we talk about the budget here a little bit later, that's more what I want to have in mind.
sure. So using the current year as an example, we had budgeted $3 a gallon, and across the two providers, we're averaging about $2.60 a gallon right now.
So that's 15% below.
It's
Sounds like
a meaningful difference, especially when
Thank you.
you multiply that by gallons. Big number. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, and
And I was thinking about what a typical diesel locomotive would use to go a mile. So then yeah, it's
It's a big number.
big numbers. I
we do-
can't believe that.
And we do top them off regularly. Like overnight, they'll come and top off the tanks.
Wow. Preparation.
yeah. Okay, so appreciate the dialogue. And again, thank you, Mark, for the information. Any other questions or comments on the item? I would entertain a motion on 9G.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes and Ms. Bailey. Any further conversation on the motion? All right, Ms. Luna, how do you vote on 9G?
Aye.
Thank you, ma'am. All those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the exercise contract option is approved.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 9H, approval. Oh, sorry.
You're
gonna- yeah. All right, I'll
Nominations Board has to approve nominations for officers for 2026.
thank you. So I'm gonna hand over to the nominating committee in a moment, but I want to first express my appreciation to the nominating committee. VRE has had not just shakeups in their own C-suite this year, but amongst our membership, and we had to ask people to step in to fill this role. So I want to express my appreciation to the two of you for putting in the time and effort to reach out and speak to the board, speak to our council. And I would ask you to share with us where you have landed today with that effort.
So where we have landed. First of all, I want to preface that with two things. One is that thanking Mayor Mensing, Alana, for her immense patience. Because we both were new to this role. And typically you need to see bylaws, etc. And I will make a couple of remarks later on that. So it was a challenging decision, not because it's a difficult decision, but because we have no established culture of process here on this. We are used that the current members of the executive committee are assumed that they will continue, but it is very helpful when we keep process and we reach out to us nominators here and say, okay, I want to do that, etc., and not just assume things. So we need to change that habit, but our bylaws are also interesting because, first of all, I don't know if everybody realized that the immediate past chairman is actually a member of the committee. So it's the famous Article 3 of, Section 1 of the bylaws that stipulates that the officers are the chairman. We have to change this language. The vice chairman, the secretary, the treasurer, the immediate past chairman, and such subordinate officers as may from time to time be elected by the operations board. In addition to that, the offices shall be held only by members of the operations board, obviously, and each of the commissions, so NVTC and PRTC, shall provide 2 officers from among their operations board's members. So the officers of the chairman, the vice chairman, shall not be of the same. So if we have now Sarah, who is our NVTC appointee, the vice chair has to be Andrea, who is a PRTC appointee. So the composition of the executive committee is the chair. If it's PRTC, the chair, then the vice chair has to be NVTC. The treasurer can be either NVTC or PRTC, but definitely not the same. The secretary can be NVTC or PRTC, but if it's one of the two, the treasurer has to be of something else. And then the immediate past chair is whatever the previous past chair is. So Sarah is the only member who will be on the executive committee next year by definition, and she's an NVTC member. So, and then Madam Attorney, the board can decide to add an adjunct executive committee member, right?
Yes.
Yes. So here's where we landed. So for the office of the chair, we nominate Andrea Bailey, who will be then a PRTC appointee. For the office of vice chair, we nominate Dan Stork, who is an NVTC appointee. For the office of the secretary, we nominate Lori Hayes, who is a PRTC appointee. And then the treasurer now we can choose. Is it correct?
Yes.
Right. So if we appoint, because now the two commissions have 2 members each, so that's now done. So we have interest from 2 people. That was Janan Holmes and Sonia Vasquez Luna. So Jan Holmes, we discussed that. We said we will propose Ms. Holmes for treasurer this year. She's also she's a little bit more senior than Ms. Vasquez Luna, 1 year longer on this board, and she's also an executive. She's the vice chair of PRTC per se. So that brings these credentials in addition to that. But now I would like to open this to this board. There is something that's missing here. For example, the Ms. Vasquez Luna would be the only person she's the only person who is on the Manassas branch of the Manassas line, which is an important thing. All right. So as a board, we can, if we want, add an adjunct member of the executive committee. And now I'm asking Ms. Kaur, how does this work? Is that a motion that the board has to decide whether or not, and then to appoint, or directly can the board vote to appoint? And directly appoint. So I'm opening to discussion. I mean, we would say to add Ms. Vasquez Luna as an adjunct member for this year. That would make, by the way, for PRTC members, it gives you an amazing advantage of 5 members against 2. But mind you that when we think about the executive committee, now we have we understand that we have to think about 2 things. First of all, how you manage the representation of different parts of the system, different jurisdictions, different constituencies, riderships, etc. The second thing is you have to think also about the rotation of next year. So your next chair that has to be from a different commission, etc., etc. So there are more. This is a more sophisticated process than we initially anticipated. Now we know more, and I think I will take it personally. It's a little project this year with everybody's tolerance to scrub a little bit on the bylaws and just mark for this board things that may need some reconsideration. Maybe Mayor Mansing will accompany me in this little homework on this.
Yeah.
Just to show how attractive this role is.
Well, I appreciate Supervisor, or you're not supervisor. Are you?
But
You're a board member. We all have slightly different titles. Board member.
chair, but
Oh yeah. Excuse me, sir. Yeah, chair. Yeah, Chair, VRE board member. for walking us through sort of what is admittedly and what everyone sort of watching or reporting on this might not realize is a fairly complex appointment system by design to ensure representation throughout the service. That representation is a little complicated by there is a fewer number of NBTC members to choose from, so we come up more often. I mean, if anybody's sort of watching that, you will see, you know, NBTC members in the chair role it would appear, you know, to repeat more often and sooner in their service, admittedly, just by the nature of there being fewer of us. But I really appreciate him walking through why the certain roles are designated in the way they have to be, and the thought and the balance that they put into the proposal. I'm excited at the amount of interest, you know, there was in this, and just want to acknowledge a little bit what Chair Karantonis alluded to, which was this was a year of a lot of change. New council, you know, guiding the process, new members of the nomination committee, I being in the middle of the CEO search, you know, while this was happening. So there was a lot of moving parts. I think we've landed actually with a really great slate, honestly, with a real mix and a thoughtfulness to geography. Ms. Kaur, if you can help guide me to the finish line here, what I'm essentially hearing is a motion from the nominating committee to name Chair Andrea Bailey, Vice Chair Dan Stork, Secretary Lori Hayes, Treasurer Janet Holmes. I will serve as immediate past chair, and Ms. Vasquez Luna would serve in the additional, you know, board member role at large role. So can we take that as a motion? Looking for a second?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion, that slate? It can come from anybody, but
Okay, I was like, I mean.
I'll second it since you're gonna be chair.
Yeah,
I'm not.
that's what I sensed was happening.
Yeah.
For anybody like listening or watching at home, there were several people who are on the slate who were hesitating to put their hands up sort of for themselves.
Yes.
So
Trying not
thank you, Ms. Baumke, for stepping up in that way. So we have a motion and a second for the slate as described. Any further conversation on that motion? Okay.
Thank you to the nominating committee, because it looks like it was a much more involved process than anyone thought.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, I would just like to say that for those of us in the southern part down on Spotsylvania, Fredericksburg, Stafford, we appreciate the bylaw changes that were made several years ago to include us. So thank you for that, and that allows people down there to step up and be a part. So, you know, I don't want that to just go unsaid, because it was very important at the time, and it sets the tone for what's happening right now.
And I'll flag for I'll obviously be serving next year, but I want to flag when I rotate off, the next nominating group at the end of next year will need to be mindful of an NBTC member coming on. So flagging for my NBTC colleagues, and we will ideally have a new colleague on the board next year from Fairfax. I know Mr. Bierman is currently the alternate, but I think with expectation, we'll have a new member.
Very interesting. Yeah, she needs to be appointed. She's not. He was sworn in on Tuesday, but has not been appointed because we haven't had a board meeting since she's been sworn in. So the expectation, confident, will be she'll be appointed at our January meeting, which is our next meeting.
Yeah. Ms. Bailey.
As my colleague said, thank you so much to the nominating committee for your hard work. And I would just say, and first thing, second thing is, that's when we went through the CEO process, one of the things that Mike said all the time, this is a great board, and it is a great board, because we're very inclusive in our thought and how we do things. And I think that's a respectful way to the citizens as we conduct ourselves. And then thirdly, I would encourage the next nominating committee because I experienced this with the board that we had for the CEO evaluation process. We didn't have a process. And so to what you were saying, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for acknowledging that we need to put it on paper, how do we go about this process to make it comfortable for the next nominating committee? I would encourage that to happen as well. So thank you so much for your time and efforts in this. And I'm honored.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Luna, how do you vote on item 9H?
Aye.
Thank you and congrats. And then how to everyone in the room? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Congratulations to the 2026 officers. I cannot wait to pass the gavel.
I don't want to.
Okay, so now the moment we've all been waiting for, action item 9I.
All right, the Operations Board is asked to adopt and amend the FY26 VRE operations and operating and capital budget and the recommended FY 2027 VRE operating and capital budget and refer them to the commissions for their consideration and subsequent referral to the jurisdictions for their formal review and adoption, and to recommend to the commission's authorization to the executive directors of MVTC and PRTC to take the necessary actions to apply for federal and state grant funding. With that, I want to start with Mark, as Mark comes to the podium here, just the literally hundreds of hours that have been dedicated to this effort since at least August. So thank you, Mark. With that, jump in, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dallas. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I jump into the budget, I'd like to take a moment to express my appreciation to Ms. Bonke. As Ms. Bagley mentioned, she was the chair for the Finance Committee for 3 years, right in that sort of immediate post-pandemic period. And her leadership and guidance, not just in sort of doing the budgeting in that weird period, but also when we did the big bond issuance in 2022, was really valuable to me. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. So starting as we usually do with just where we are in the calendar, at the end, at least for you guys as operations board members, not as commission members quite yet, we presented the key issues in July. We brought you the preliminary budget in September. We had our public outreach and the updates in October, November, and now we're here asking you to refer the recommended budget to the commissions for their approval in January. I think we often do get caught up in the details of the budgeting, but I think it's good to step back occasionally and just remind ourselves why we're here. VRE's mission is to provide commuter-oriented passenger rail that is safe, cost-effective, accessible, reliable, convenient, and comfortable. And passing this budget is what allows us to achieve this mission. So that is really why we're here. So starting with the operating budget, we have a total recommended operating budget of 115.1 million for next year. That includes all the operations, the maintenance, the debt service. I will say this is essentially flat to our approved budget for this year, actually down about $100,000, which is great. And this is the budget that supports our 32 daily weekday trains. And we are bringing you, as required, a balanced budget with all the projected expenses supported by reasonably expected revenues. So we'll dig into this a little bit. One topic that I know you all are interested in, jurisdictional contribution. As we've talked about from the beginning, we have been proposing that the total jurisdictional contribution won't change from this year to next year. So if you look at the bottom line on the chart, the total 19.8 million this year and next year. And then again, as we've discussed, because we were not able to do the master agreements survey, we're using the same allocation next year as we did for this year, which means that dollar for dollar, each jurisdiction's contribution isn't changing from last year to this year. We also came to you with a proposed passenger increase of 5%. We have done all the required public participation around that. We did receive about 20 total comments on the proposed increase and then just on the budget in general. Mostly people opposed to the fare increase, as you might expect, just generally due to overall challenges in the economy, the government shutdown. Also some critiques of our reliability. Why do I need to pay more when you're not achieving, your 90%? And also just not wanting to pay more until we deliver Wi-Fi on the trains, which we've tried to tell them many times is probably not going to be coming, but that's okay. We did get a couple comments in favor of it, and in fact, I believe that public comment that you received this morning, which was after the period had closed, but it's important to get that to you, was from a person who actually was supporting the fare increase. And then we also did get some changes, both pro and con, some comments, both pro and con, about the flat $5 fare, within zones 1 to 3, and then also the fact that we have kids 18 and under for free. It's just some people have varying opinions on these things. So we do intend, we have collected the comments, we have sort of taken them into account, but we still do believe that there is a business case for, returning back to the biennial increases in the fares. And so we will, with your approval, make the modifications to the passenger tariff, and this will go into effect on or about July the 1st of next year. And we do expect it to generate a little over $1 million of additional revenue relative to it if we didn't do it. Just to talk a little bit about some of the key variables in the operating budget. We are no longer budgeting for VRE operated Saturday trains. Passengers would now, again, because of the partnership that we have with VPRA and Amtrak, be able to use the step-up program as long as they have a VRE ticket to ride in trains on the weekends now, which is a good thing. The budget does not have any changes to our staffing, at least our FTE staffing levels. But I do want to make clear that we are looking very closely at adding part-time and temporary resources, particularly in the procurement area for VRE. Kristen and her team, I just want to give them a shout out. They've been working very, very hard on all these construction projects, like Ms. Peggley mentioned, that we're now delivering. We don't need to hire a person who's going to be a VRE employee for 20 years to do this. We need to bring in some temporary resources over the next couple of years to get us over the hump, and we're in the process of doing that. One of the biggest issues, again, as we've talked about over the last couple of years, is insurance. In next year's budget, up about 1.1 million from this year's approved budget, which is about 13%. That is a combination both of sort of underlying rates going up and also the amount of liability coverage that we have to get going up. Joe and I and Charlotte have been working on this, and we'll be continuing to work on it, hoping to bring you some items. How can we try to address this? Both in the near term, we've been working with Treasury, the Division of Risk Management down in Richmond, about sort of short-term changes that might be able to save us a few $100,000. But long-term action is really going to be needed sort of collectively within the rail industry, both to sort of, are there ways that rather than just going out into the market that we can sort of get together, maybe have a captive, rather than paying premiums to an insurer in London, we pay the premiums to ourselves. That's a thing that we're going to need to be looking at, but not just on our own, but with other partners within the industry, and then also potentially looking at legislative changes to the cap that's in the PREA legislation, especially given the experience in the industry post PTC. It really does seem like there's an argument for bringing that cap down. So again, we look to be coming to talking to you guys more about this. I want to highlight again the importance of our relationship with VPRA as far as reimbursement of the access fee we pay to the host railroads. VPRA wouldn't work as a business model without that partnership. And then the rest of the things in the budget, honestly, are pretty normal. Diesel fuel is looking relatively quiet right now. I would knock on wood for that one. And most other costs within the budget are sort of escalating at we're sort of more back to normal now, at least sort of pre-pandemic. Things are, 2, 3, 4%. And we do have our normal 2% contingency within the operating budget, which is about $2 million. So Dallas talked about this very well before. Ridership, it remains hard to predict in this environment with the return to office, the shutdown, general uncertainty in the economy, and then the work windows. I think he answered Mrs. Bomke's question well about what went into the 9,300 projection. That translates into a projected revenue of a little under $23 million for FY27. That would be a fare box recovery of right about 22%. Again, not where we were pre-pandemic, but trending slowly in the right direction. Pandemic relief, again, always an important thing for us. The chart on the right there, I decided to try to mix it up and do a pie chart this time. We, as you'll recall, we were initially awarded about $270 million of pandemic relief. That would be the whole pie. We have used up all the ones that are lighter in color are the ones that we've already drawn. So we've used up all the CARES Act. We've used up about 2/3 of the ARPA money and very little of the CRISA money yet. So we have about 105 million remaining as of the end of last fiscal year, as of June the 30th. We're still on track for sort of late fiscal 2028 for the exhaustion of those funds, which just highlights again why in the coming year the action on the SJ28 recommendations is really critical for VRE. Exactly. I could pause there if we wanted to talk about the operating budget, or I could jump right into the capital program.
Actually, I appreciate the pause and thank you for the support team over there for the water. Are there questions? Yeah, Mr. Stork.
So this is a great slide. The one before that's a great slide because I keep hearing, keep representing when the funds alone run out from and seeing what's we've had and seeing what we've drawn down is really helpful to me. And then as of June 30th, we have 105. What again do we expect to draw down this year? And then you're looking at $37 million for.
Yes, I can, for the amended this year, about 35.
35.
Yeah. And I'll talk the middle bullet point there. I'll talk a little bit about, because there's some nuance there with the grants and how it sort of ties into the capital program.
So I see kind of a third this year, a third next year, and a third potentially.
Yeah.
Run out
At the level of confidence that we have, yes, that's exactly right. Yep.
And I was noticing that comments, and I know this is true generally because I know when I came VRE board, or maybe before I got on the VRE board, I understood it was always historically had been a ratio of 50% kind of from passenger fares and 50% from subsidies, et cetera. And the comments that were made, at least one of them I saw, but I've heard others, that's still the perception, is that a passenger's fare still represents 50%, even though we know it's 22% or somewhere between 20 and 25%. And I think we need to do more to educate them. I mean, it's kind of a good news, bad news. I mean, if we represent more widely that passenger fares do not fund the level of historic level, maybe, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I just say perception of historic levels of 50-50, that we'll get different reactions from people. Some people will say, well, you're subsidizing too much, and others would say, it's a great deal, you need to take advantage of it and ride the train more often. But I think we need to do a better job of at least explaining to people or having it in our communications materials what and how the VRE is paid for. I think I personally, and you all have heard me before, I personally think our subsidy levels relative to our fares are too high. I think our fares need to be closer, move towards 50%. I don't know that's where we should be, but so that was the other kind of broader comment I wanted to make.
I want to give you a chance to respond to that
I would just say my personal feeling on that is that between now and 2030, the more that we can do to bring that number up, through keeping expenses down, maybe through strategic fare increases, get that fare box recovery up as high as we can while we're still mostly a commuter railroad. I think that's the right move. I think once we make that post-Long Bridge transition into being a regional railroad, it's probably not going to be able to be at that same kind of elevated level where you're really leaning on the federal transit benefit users and the sort of peak hour, peak rider. It's probably going to be something different. So
I think your point is well taken. I think maybe over the next couple of years, we need to put together board committee and to, I think, look at that future and try to anticipate that, because we recognize just the debates we've had before about subsidy versus passenger fare, and trying to get ahead of that and have a system. I mean, at least my experience has been, if you tell people here's where we're going and here's where we're going to go over the next 5 or 6 years, it's easier to get board buy into that, and then also you can educate people about that and hopefully get us closer to where we want to be. I don't know where that should be. I truly don't. I just know it needs, my perspective, needs to be a lot higher than 22%.
I think I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Just to respond to that briefly, I think I wanted to sort of agree with both points here. One is we should do a better job of being clear that at present, since the pandemic, we are not getting half of our fares, from the riders. We are supplementing that gap essentially with pandemic relief funds and doing it really responsibly and well, I'll add.
Absolutely.
Making that last a really long time. Then I think to Mark's point, and one I agree with, is to the extent in a few years our customer profile changes in the way that we want it to and hope for it to do, or all this building will have sort of been for naught, that customer has less elasticity in their spending. It's a different customer. It's somebody going out to dinner and in Stafford, it's somebody going to a basketball game in the city. And so the model we have used, the alternating jurisdictional fare increase model, was based on a certain type of user and a certain type of jurisdictional subsidy. The other wrinkle in all this, which I was actually going to ask a question, and maybe if Joe wants to speak to this a little bit, is when you talk about our theory of funding, where does our funding come from? Historically, half riders, half jurisdictions. Well, SJ28 in the General Assembly this year is supposed to also be, reevaluating how we fund transit in the Commonwealth sustainably moving forward in ways that I think will have downstream impacts, hopefully positive ones, on our respective jurisdictions and the money we do and don't have available to fund things like this. So I think there are three things moving, some of them together, some of them a little, against each other. That means a reevaluation of our stated method of, building our operations budget, has to change, but also we need some of these things to shake out. We need SJ28 to be legislation and to hopefully be passed. We need the projects to finish, and then we need to assess who our rider profile is. To what extent is it somebody who doesn't have a transit benefit? To what extent is it somebody going north to south for social reasons, or for healthcare reasons, whatever they might be? So I am, to the extent we've gotten through the operations part, I think staying the course in this moment makes sense because we have those moving variables. But I do like your idea of either maybe a subcommittee or a standing item sort of quarterly, or, that we sort of check in on the ways in which these pieces are starting to interact with each other over the next few years. I mean, this isn't something we solve, I think, next year either. I don't know if do we want to say anything else about SJ28 in this moment? Do people in the room, board members, feel apprised of, it's referenced in here saying, the recommendation is critical, but I don't know if we don't need to pause there, but if.
I mean, first of all, I do think that this is an item for the finance committee to look, because it comes in through the question, I mean, what's the right balance between what we call subsidy? And my point is to challenge a little bit this. There is a lot of investment in the subsidy. We are not only paying for people to use the system, we're paying for the system to do other things. I mean, what's the return on investment on land use, for example? What's the return on investment on, not having to build an additional lane on 995? So there is I absolutely take the point of when the system graduates from being a commuter system to a transportation system, actually the ratio will tilt towards the public apportation versus the private pay, because we want this to be more used, A, and B, we want, because it's more used, to have maximum benefits on all the other collateral sides of this. But we have to appraise them, and we have to really make clear that everybody understands that if there is something that changed with SG 28, is that now we have a better understanding of that, and that started with a grown-up metropolitan transportation system up there. So, and I look forward to our new CEO, because she's coming from a system that has gone through this, and that will be very, very interesting. I mean, just to say, our bus systems are far higher subsidized than this. It's 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 1 to 7, typically, and there's no question about that. We are not going to discuss even that anymore. So I think we should be discussing that, because this will give us also other insights about how to price the system so that it's used more, and also will create this idea of what the right level of service is, or what the appropriate escalation levels of service will be. I think that the finance committee should be taking that up, and that's basically my remark on that.
Let me get to Mr. McLaughlin, and then I'll come back to Mr. Kelly.
Sorry, if it was already said, and I missed it, I couldn't see it in the PowerPoint. When was the last time fares were raised?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, so 5%. Makes sense. I will say, in my experience as Chicago Transit Agency, you often do wait a couple of years and then have that 5%. I think that's an industry norm. And for reference, WMATA, is that raised every year?
They do not have an increase in the current proposal that they just delivered.
last year.
They raised it last year? Okay, so they might be on the same every other year cycle as well, which I find, tend to find.
I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, one other clarifying question, Mark, your slides and what I read on, you sent previously, so thank you. 20.4 million access fees, but I found that page, I was giving carefully send the board. I found that on another page, 26.3 million for access fees and host railroad costs.
Yes, we have
the
host,
budget.
yes, we have host railroad costs that we pay Amtrak that are not included in the access fees. Other costs that we don't give to you guys for reimbursement. That's
so nice of you.
Yeah.
Was that an offer? Did I?
Thank you.
Yeah. So one more quick thing. Thank you for saying that you are bringing on temporary resources for procurement. As I've said to Dallas and Chow, we've probably been through some of these procurements. They're not always easy. There's a lot of great expertise on the outside that we've brought in some temporary consulting help. Also, even after the contract is signed and sealed, contractors need to keep the fire and make sure that we have enough procurement and legal staff, whether it be in-house or counsel that's very close to being in-house, to make sure that they're adhering to the agreements, to the contract. So thank you for including that in the budget, because it's spending a little bit of money to make sure we have staff, even if they're outside staff, could go a long way of saving claims that could be in the tens of millions of dollars of projects such as 171 million long fine. So thank you for including that in the budget.
Sure.
I'll go to Ms. Bailey in a moment, but I want to just pick up real quick on the WMATA pricing comment, because one of the other things that came out, and I've heard in a few places, but I heard the other day again at the legislative forum, is Interestingly, WMATA's ridership return has not been a peak return. It's been a all over the day return, which I think is exciting for VRE. This idea that as people have come back to transit, it's not just commuters coming back. In fact, that's not where the return is in the overall numbers. It's throughout the day, which makes us, I think, have reason to have optimism about what could happen throughout the day. And we've not ever discussed sort of peak hour pricing versus other because we were a peak hour service. I mean, that's what we did. So, to the extent that's part of the conversation years from now, as we're thinking about different pricing models and who the client is, I think it's an interesting comparison that WMATA has talked about how much their ridership is now throughout the day and on weekends. Ms. Bailey.
Yeah, everything that I've been thinking, everyone has said. Especially what you just said, but I want to go back to what Dan said also about having a group to really look at and assess where we are, because we're at such a good place right now. We're at a great place, and Mark, you've done, and your team have done an impeccable job in bringing us right there. And I really want to highlight the fact, the relationship that we've established. We've been talking about this over the years with BPRA. I think that's so critical in where we're going, and having that relationship. And then lastly, with the SJ28, if we could just have a debrief, a preview, I think that would be important to us as well as we're going forward and making decisions about this. But we need to absorb, I don't want to reiterate, but we need to absorb right now where we are right now. Because 2 years makes a big difference. 2 years with the resources that we've had has made a big difference, but we're at such a great place right now. And so we just need to acknowledge that, be very prudent as we go forward in our decision making, but just acknowledge that we're in a good space to change the paradigm shift in the community. And it's not just commuter, it's all encompassing. So I just wanted to say that because the board should feel really good about where we are right now. I just wanted to say that.
Ms. Funky.
So I'm going to come back to a subject that I bring up, it seems, on a regular basis. And I think this is something that you all should look at next year, just so you have some historical information. These PREA costs are outrageous. They're outrageous. And I mean, when I saw that 180% increase, was it last year? Anyway.
It's not ringing a bell, but sorry.
Right. I think it would be good for the board to kind of see who are all these transit agencies throughout the United States that are participating, thinking about participating, and maybe giving some historical information on the insurance cost over the years, so that you all have a framework in your mind, and then kind of bringing everybody up to speed on what's Joe doing at the legislative level in Congress, and what are the things that this board can be doing from a congressional level with all the people they know, with the new James Walkinshaw. Yeah. How are you gonna help us here, James?
He's listening.
Yeah, I'm sure.
James, I just think that the board really needs to be educated on that, and not the deep dive, but to say, here's where we are right now. This is what we've been watching over the last 5 to 7 years. And here's how we think we would like to move forward. And I would say, maybe you can use some board members to help in that whole process nationally. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
I know what you're talking about now. Sorry, I was writing through the memo that we put out last year that had a number of historical.
Yes.
And we went back to, I think it's 2009 or 10 or so. Yes, that's exactly right. Insurance has almost tripled in cost relative to then, both because the amount that we have to get covered has increased and just because of the squeeze on the capacity in the market. So you're exactly right. Yep.
Before we shift to the capital, I wanted to touch on one other thing on this slide. I appreciate that you have not budgeted for Saturday service, just like we did obviously pass it a few years ago. We sort of kept checking in on it. It kept being in the budget. I think that's the realistic thing to do, since we anticipate not happening. Having said that, I would like us to re-engage with that topic, as we prepare for the next budget or the one after that. Because yes, we have Step Up, but we also know Step Up is designed in a way that you have to have a multi-pass user to use it. I mean, I use Amtrak on the weekends myself. It is cheap and easy to do a quick, ride to Fredericksburg or to Richmond. But I think what this board talked about for several years in signing up for Saturday service was the opportunities it presented in attracting a different rider, a different type of rider, introducing a new people. I still think that opportunity should be out there. So again, I agree with, we're not, we should acknowledge it's not happening, now, but I just wanted to express, I guess, to my colleagues here, I don't think, to me, that signals that wasn't the signal I took, that we are done with the concept of Saturday service for VRE, that for this budget year, there was no need to budget for it. But and we can continue that dialogue in other contexts in service, but I think that's part of the ridership growth story. I think that's part of the, attracting new eyes to the trains.
Contractually speaking, our agreements for CSX, once we're done with certain projects, we would receive Saturday service, no questions asked. What the board and us were doing in the past years was trying to get that sooner, and the agreement allowed. It was a special request to CSX, if you will. But when we're done with the projects, Long Bridge, Long Fun, others, Saturday and Sunday service is it's not a question. It's gonna, assuming we have funding for it, funding for operations is gonna happen.
Yeah, and that's, I think, all I wanted to, like, if a person's watching at home or, people are, covering the meeting, sort of see us, what appears to be backing off the idea of Saturday service, that's not what I think that bullet, indicates. And that's not obviously what we are contractually allowed to do, plan to do, and we'll put back in the budget. With that, if other questions on the operating? Yeah.
Because might be something I was wondering about anyway, which is that, are we really 4 or 5 years away from that, or 5 or 6 years away from that because of those other construction? I mean, so do we need to have a more realistic assessment of, no, I mean, it's possible, but it's unlikely because you have so much headwind, if you will, to try to get that.
Well, there's two things. One, contractually speaking, once we finish a certain amount of projects, we can get Saturday service. Some of those projects have been delayed due to right of way and other issues that come along with projects. The other item is the work windows. And they're gonna want to do a lot of work on Saturday and Sunday when there are not VRE trains now. And it's not just gonna be Long Bridge, it's gonna be opportunity for track, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So that's gonna really complicate things if we want to in a couple of years when Alexandria 4 track is done. When it's close to being done in preparation of that if we want to have a conversation amongst us and then we have to engage CSX, because that's not, or some other projects won't be finished yet, that'll trigger that Saturday service. We can have that, but I think at least through Alexandria, which should be finished early 2028, the King Combo about the same time. It's gonna be really difficult to add weekend service unless if we do, it might delay the projects and cost the projects also, right? Just being honest, you asked a good question. I'm just giving you an honest answer.
So I heard FY 2030 maybe as a plan. I mean, I heard 28 and then we always have.
And I was talking about calendar year, yeah. The calendar year 20 and beginning of calendar 28. We can have conversations about it. We are going to be asking CSX for something possibly in advance of the contract though. So just keep that in mind, and they have to run service too. And everyone's been shared sacrifice in these work windows. It's not just VRE, it's Amtrak and CSX, so on and so forth. So I know we're in a public forum and I don't want to negotiate too much what we might ask CSX in a public forum, but we've asked them before and we can happy to be a part of those conversations.
Just elaborate a little bit, right? So I think the answer is it's not no, it's just not right now, right? And that the work window piece, where it complicates it, is it's likely during that time you might only get 1 train out in the morning and 1 in the afternoon back, where we had wanted to do 3 or more trains, right? Because of that incremental cost. the cost to put that operation staff, comm room staff, like there's lots of incremental costs, which is spread out over 3 trains versus 1. And so it just didn't make a lot of sense because of the work windows. And that's the sort of logic moving forward. So
We're also going to be pushing Amtrak to do some work in First Avenue Tunnel, Union Station, use our work windows to do with some of their items, which are further going to constrain. So again, I second what Dallas said. They just not right now. Happy to have those conversations in a couple of years.
All right, let's move on to the capital if we can.
Sure.
Thank you.
So our 6-year capital program, we have close to 24 major projects and programs within it. Total project cost, including expenditures already made, 1.27 billion. We are about 79% funded, 1.01 billion, with money that's either in the bank and ready to go or reasonably expected. I'm not going to go through each of the projects. Instead, this table and the next table, I'll just give you a couple of different cuts at it. So this is by sort of program, major sort of asset or program area, close to $500 million. Facilities. That's the biggest area within the budget. Probably not surprising, given kind of the division of labor between VRE and VPRA on all the sort of TRV projects. Next after that, at 278 million, is our maintenance and storage facilities. Not just the new midday storage facility at Seminary, but also our terminal yards at Crossroads and Broad Run. We need a place for not just our existing rail cars, but our 21 new rail cars to live when they get delivered. And then sort of tied after that, roughly the same, is the Manassas Line property acquisition that we have the agreement with VPRA on. And then sort of a general category of track and structures, which is primarily the VRE Broad Run lead track, and then the proposed crossovers on both the Manassas and the Fredericksburg line. The one point that I want to make on which ones are sort of funded versus unfunded, I really want to note that the asset management state of good repair program at the top always has to be funded. We absolutely have to keep our existing equipment and facilities in a state of good repair. That has to get the first call on the money, and then all the rest of the projects can come after that. And then looking at it, a different cut, essentially what is the color of the money in the budget? Pretty equal in there, more than 400 million each from the state and the feds. But I don't want to diminish the importance of that regional line, the MBTA, the commuter choice money. That is really like highly leveraged money that is bringing important projects across the finish line. And then, as I noted, about 20% of it is still not funded. So that's about $265 million. This slide and the next one are really a little bit less about what's in the 27 budget and rather a little bit more about what we expect to be bringing you guys in the next months and years. And this one in particular is the topic that I covered in the memo that you got that we were going to discuss at the committee meeting last month. There's sort of 2 challenges that we have to address that are really linked. The first, and Dallas can speak to this a lot, I'm sure, is just that the cost estimates for a number of our capital projects have been increasing. It's inflation, it's tariffs, it's general uncertainty in the market, and it's also a lack of capacity right now in the construction market. And just all of these things are pushing the cost estimates up. The other, which is really a good news story, is that we have been getting allocated more FTA money through the split letter process in the last couple of years than we would have expected, which is great. That's more money that we can use on our projects, but we have to bring match to the table in order to take advantage of that money. So my top priority in the budget process this year was we have 3, if you'll recall at the last meeting, we looked at that project delivery schedule, when the projects are expected to be in construction. There's 3 projects: Crystal City, Franconia Springfield, and the Broad Run expansion that we want to have on the street and begin construction within the next 18 months. So by the end of FY 27. We also have the rail cars from Alstom those which are already well underway. Those 4 projects had cost increases that had to be dealt with in the budget. We identified the necessary federal money to fill those gaps, and those projects can move ahead as they need to. So that was like the primary goal for this budget process. What I think we need to do, and I look forward to working with Katie on this when she's here, is really taking a hard look at our prioritization and our grant strategy for the rest of the projects that are sort of coming after FY 27. LaFont, the lead track, Seminary Yard, the remaining purchase of the operating easement from VRE, the crossovers, all of these things. Given what we expect to get in terms of the FTA money, where do we want to prioritize that? Are there projects that we could maybe reduce the scope on them, spread them out a little bit more, push them out in time a little bit? What projects are potentially going to be competitive for those discretionary programs like Build, Chrissy, Fed State Partnership? And then the last issue, which ties into the question that I mentioned for Mr. Storr, how do we find creative sources of match for that FTA money that's not just taking money out of the MTF dedicated money that we get? So to step back for a minute, prior to 2025, VRE was part of the merit program. We got a certain amount of operating money, and then we applied for merit capital grants, which we usually used to match the FTA money. Now we just get that dedicated 3.5% chunk from the MTF, and we have to use that for both operating and for capital match. And what we need to do, rather than just, oh, we have some FTA money, let's take 20% and match that with the MTF money, we need to try to keep as much of that MTF money in the operating budget so that we can support the operations, spread that pandemic money out as long as we can, at least over the next couple of years, and look at NBTA money, commuter choice money, smart scale money, whatever, to be that 20% match to the FTA money. So all of that is to say, I look forward to sitting down with Katie. She'll be drinking from a fire hose, but this is one of the primary topics that I want to bring to her, because we're good for the next 18 months and the projects that we want to get on the street, but we have a lot to work on for the ones that are sort of coming after that. The other topic is rolling stock. And we actually were talking a little, you sort of stole my thunder a little bit here on the locomotives, but that's okay.
You sound so sad. That was.
Like the seal.
It's teamwork. No, it's other than the 21 rail cars from Alstom, which we're currently looking to get delivered in calendar 28, we took out any further expansion rail cars in the CIP for now. We have talked a lot as part of this system plan process. We can deliver a lot more service, a lot more frequent service post Long Bridge with the number of rail cars that we'll have between our existing 100 and the 21 new. Shorter trains, more often. So I think we can sort of, I don't feel comfortable putting just some big random placeholder for expansion rail cars in the capital program right now. It'll come, it'll be in there eventually, but not right now. Locomotives are a slightly different story. We have sort of 3 areas of need that I've indicated here. And we don't quite have it's not quite well defined enough for me to feel comfortable putting it in the 27 budget yet, but I don't expect any of these costs would hit really in 27 anyway. So we'll be coming to talk to you about these. So the first is leasing. We have a need for definitely 1, maybe 2 or 3 locomotives to support our equipment asset management program. In particular, we hopefully have a program coming to totally repaint all of the locomotives, but that's going to have to be done off-site. So we're going to need at least 1, maybe more locomotives to sort of swap in while one of the locomotives is out being painted. We expect to nail down a little more specifically how many we need, how many years we need them for, and then we expect to come to you guys for approval to issue an RFP on that. That's within the next 12 months at some point. But again, given the time to do the RFP and then probably at least 12 months for whoever the vendor would be to deliver the leased locomotives to us. I wouldn't expect that to hit the budget until 28. So I feel comfortable just telling you about that right now rather than having it in the budget. And then the second bucket is expansion locomotives, post Long Bridge, shorter trains, more frequent trains. That's easy with the rail cars. That takes more locomotives. So that might also be leasing. That might be keeping an eye on North Star in Minneapolis, which is closing down here in a month or two. They may be looking to get rid of some equipment, so we'll keep an eye on that. Or it might just be going out and procuring locomotives. We'll have to see. And then Sarah was talking about, these locomotives last 25 to 30 years. We're at about the 15-ish year mark on them. But it, like Dallas mentioned, it might take 8 years from the time that you place an order to get delivery. So again, not the kind of thing that we have to have in the budget immediately, the kind of thing that we as a group need to start thinking about. And I think not just thinking about in terms of, oh, how do we want to procure these? How might we want to finance them, but from even like a technology perspective, I mean, like if we're going to buy something 10 or 15 years from now that then is going to last another 25 or 30 years, I mean, like you're into 2060 by then.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? So just, we need to like really as a group take a strategic look at this and not just assume that we're going to recapitulate what we've been doing.
Mark, if you don't mind, I think Dallas had a comment.
I just have a small add. I want to put an exclamation point on this delicate balance and all of the work that goes into this between operations, infrastructure, and rolling stock, right? So, for instance, just standing up Seminary Yard and that new train, we've had to reduce Constance length from 8 cars to 6 cars, right? Where do you put them? And then another piece of that is when you reduce from 8 to 6, you can do 2 conductors on the train instead of 3. So there's a staffing piece of it, the extra board. So that's just this complicated dance of those 3 things: ops, infrastructure, and rolling stock. That is a delicate balance that we're playing this game all the time and projecting 5, 6, 10 years out with those needs. Like for instance, adding a Protect engine. When we start putting equipment at Seminary, we have to have a locomotive there like we do other places. Yeah. Of course, we have one at Coachar, but we're going to have to keep that one there and have one at Seminary. So that's another locomotive. Just making that point on that balance.
So that's the wrap up on the 6-year capital program. Just to make a quick comment, in addition to recommending the FY27 budget, we're asking you to recommend also the 26 amended budget. This budget is also balanced. This just reflects a number of the same operating issues that we talked about for the 27 budget. They're actually happening now, so we're reflecting them in the 26 budget. More truing up on ridership, passenger revenue, changes for the work windows, insurance costs, all of those things. And then this issue on the capital grants side, what we're reflecting in here is what I would call sort of the worst case for the use of the FTA money. If we're not able to locate any other more sort of creative matching, then we're going to have to draw the amount of MTF money that's here in the amended budget. My hope is that we can do better than that, and then that MTF money can go back into the operating budget, which then in turn will allow the pandemic money to last a little bit longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Open it up to any comments, questions on the capital side.
Just
Mike, yeah.
look forward to working with you. If there's a way we have a lot of access to maybe some FRA funds. You guys might have access to FTA funds if we can work with you guys to figure out who's the best applicant or co-applicant for something as we move forward.
Yeah, and I appreciate that Mark highlights the unfunded portion of the CIP, but we can't lose sight of the dramatic portion of it that is funded. I mean, it's an incredibly well-funded program relative probably to our respectful jurisdictional, CIPs and the things we are proposing, but don't have the funding for. So, there's real value for our dollar that is leveraged. And, in that chart, that slide shows, I mean, we're the smallest piece, in terms of how the CIP and how the budget is put together. I know it's significant for each of our jurisdictions, but we really, the capital stack essentially comes from a lot of places that allows, us to have a relatively small portion. And I just, didn't want that to go unsaid, that it's very well leveraged money. Ms. Mattice.
Madam Chair, if I could just, the conversations about the budget, and this is a case for even the locality conversation earlier. Indeed, there's a major ask of the General Assembly that provides, talking about the needs of VRE, the needs of OmniRide, the needs of Metro, all of our local systems, articulating those needs down in Richmond are going to help make the case, because the ability to look at in the future new rolling stock and all those things, as well as new operational costs, that is a part of the why associated with the SJ 28 legislative ask. And I feel like I can't say it enough, but the packages, there's two parallel packages that are moving forward. One is a bigger, and I can say this because it's sort of the public domain, one is a bigger sort of change in sales tax statewide. The other one is a very focused on transit. Both of them are looking at providing additional funding for all transit in the Commonwealth, and specifically additional funding for VRE, additional funding for OmniRide in the PRTC district, additional funding for NBTC and the systems in the NBTC district, and potentially be game changers for a lot of us in the things, as I had said, and maybe it's a little too kitschy, but maybe we can have some nice things.
Mhm.
The other part of it, I think that's important, especially as I look at all of the local officials here, is what is being queued up, especially well, actually on both of those packages, is potentially, again, if the funding levels are at the levels in which the patrons want them to be, they actually could potentially provide relief to localities in your property taxes that you currently commit to things like VRE. So there's a lot of things going on in that space, but I think that this really illustrates, and I hope as others are talking about the budgets and other transit systems, the work that is going towards this funding ask in the General Assembly is really going to potentially be a game changer, and a game changer to local governments to relieve funds that you could actually use elsewhere. And that may be lost on some of this. And so lots more in this space. We actually haven't seen the drafts yet. I mean, there's no bill numbers yet. We're waiting. But I think it's really important for those who want to see sustainable funding for OmniRide, who want to see sustainable funding for VRE, who want to see sustainable funding, and also want to see some relief to local property tax. That's what the packages are. That's a big part of their goals. Delegate Sickles and Senator Evan have been leading, but they've been working with, obviously, members of all of your delegations. So I feel it's important to say that, because it really, when we talk about the needs, and the 3% from the merit program, all those sorts of things, this is what we're talking about, is actually increasing those pots statewide, as well as doing some special things in regional buckets. So there's a little bit of work that we all need to do, or the community needs to do, but I just want to make sure that that's not lost in all of this, is that this is a really big ask and a really big priority. I know for the NBTC jurisdictions, it's a huge priority, and what we hope is for the delegation as a whole. So,
and I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Bailey, but I'm going to repeat again something else that I heard at the legislative forum from Chair McKay, which I thought was useful phrasing, where he said, you're right, it's a big ask, but it's now a doable. It's a number that is, real and we feel doable, or, the parties I think feel is doable, versus just being this overwhelming, ask. I thought that was a good soundbite to put down to Richmond. Ms. Bailey.
Yes, it was a good point that he said, and hey, thank you so much for broadening the perspective on that, because what we also, goes back to something that Meg just said, we have to understand who's there as we are advocating, and how do we move the needle to get that big package done. And so we have to partner with Joe and the team, and what we need to do, because we have very strategic people in place to get this work done. And the appropriations chair is from my district. My 5 minutes from my house.
Territorial.
was my pastor. And I'm saying that not to brag, I'm saying that to what Meg is saying. Let's, this is a premier time for us to really take care of our jurisdictions in a big way to make sure that the service level is risen, but is healthy, and we don't harm our jurisdictions, we help in our avocation. So I got so excited, Kate, when you said that, I got real excited. So, thank you. For that.
So recognizing, Mr. Stork.
Thank you. I'm going to pull up from I appreciate you sending out the finance kind of summary that we weren't able to do at the last meeting. And that really kind of parallels the conversation we're having. But in particular, I appreciated the fact that we're looking at significant increases in our major capital projects, and the way that your memo kind of identifies or summarizes how those the $69 million additional costs that were part of the original presentation, how those might be addressed. Is that basically, is that something we're looking at for next year? I mean, when does that fit into the overall budgeting conversation that we're having here?
Sure. So I'm doing this off the top of my head. I think the 4 kind of immediate projects had a gap that totaled like 55 million, and that's the gap that we've taken care of
in
this
this
year.
budget. You have the differences.
And then,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there were actually 2 different. In fact, it's 120 million. Excuse me. I was looking at just one half. Yeah.
yeah, I think, which is to say, I think you're looking at the half of the projects that are critical, but not looking to go on the street quite yet. And so we have some time to think about how do we prioritize those. So Seminary Yard is one of the ones that's listed there. So when I was talking about, are there opportunities to make, to look at the scope of the projects, look at the timing of the projects, Dallas and his team have done an amazing amount of work, very little money, making Seminary Yard available to be used like right away. And so that's sort of opened some things up, like, oh, maybe we can do some stuff here cheap. I don't want to speak for Dallas, but maybe we can do some stuff here cheaper. And the cost estimate that's in there, while it's valid for a certain scope, like, oh, maybe that scope can be, and that's one of the things that we need to do to sort of prioritize.
Is that something that's the numbers that are in here? You have an FY27 cost estimate. Previous cost estimates are obviously something less. But these are dollars that we need today or next year. I mean, that's the part I was trying to get a better sense of.
Sure.
120 million. And then obviously where you saw you could potentially get that money was important. I mean,
sure.
This isn't just, okay, we got this problem. You've identified some solutions, or at least some opportunities to reduce those higher capital costs.
So the rail cars, Crystal City, Franconia, Springfield, and broader expansion, those are the ones that we had to address immediately. And so those have been addressed within the budget that we're asking you to adopt. We have some prior year and current year FTA money that we can apply to those projects. But a lot of that prior year money is coming from, like, you've been here a while. We had kind of a placeholder project in the capital program for joint projects we anticipated doing at Washington Union Station with Amtrak.
Yes.
That ultimately didn't materialize. And so that money was on the FTA's books, kind of not being used. And so we said, okay, that's not happening. We can move that money over here to these things that need it within the next 12 to 18 months. Boom, great. That next chunk, which is what you're looking at in the memo, Seminary Yard, LaFont, those are the ones that I want to sit down with Dallas, with Katie, and say, okay, we have a certain amount of FTA money that we're projecting coming in the next couple of years. We have these grants that maybe we'll be partnering with VPRA on to go after. How are we? And also maybe we can bring the scope on this project down a little bit. Maybe there's too much contingency in this cost estimate, whatever. Get that down to something that, as part of next year's budget, we can bring to you and say, this is how we're going to do construction for these. Also.
So the memo itself is more over the next, and that's kind of my question. So over the next couple of years, you need to need to essentially get the differences down to nothing because you found money somewhere else, or you reduce costs, or you've, it's like a projected, these are like projected budgets for this. And obviously, there's a deficit right now of 120 million, but
I'd like to bring the cost down and then the revenue up.
Yeah.
That's helpful. And then the other question on capital overall, you kind of alluded to it. I just wanted to hear it explicitly identified or said. Maybe more of a Dallas question, but everything we do has certain maintenance parameters and expectations, and especially for our equipment, we try to follow those. I know we particularly as board members of the county society, we particularly see this when it comes to building replacement, our CIP budgets, and inevitably we say we want to renew our buildings every 30 years or 40 years, and inevitably we don't really get close to that because it's so expensive. How are we doing on equipment maintenance renewal? Do these budgets, does this budget here fund that at a deal level or a good level, or kind of give some magnitude? How are we doing with how we fund the equipment management?
So a lot of that comes from the state of good repair funds that Mark highlighted as the very first, probably most important item in some respects,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And we are very disciplined about this. So the life cycle maintenance program, Sarah, working closely with the Keolis folks, right? On the equipment side, working closely with Eric in the back of the room for the maintenance of facilities, right? Programming that out. And I'm actually going to come to you, and I wasn't kidding, in February with a report like we did our TAM, we have to report on our asset TAM report for maintenance of those assets. And what if you buy up an FTA money, you have to tell them you're taking care of it, and we are taking care of them. And programming that through asset management tools, right? But looking at those costs, because frankly, the long-term cost, you may spend 3-4 times in maintenance cost than you do on a capital cost over the life of an asset. And so we're very disciplined about that, very smart about that. And
So where does it fit on that? We do everything by the book, or we do reasonable maintenance, and therefore we are confident of.
I would say to that the equipment is more predictable, right? That we frankly are more disciplined, and I think that's a fair statement. Rob, especially his spreadsheet, if you will, but very disciplined on the equipment because it is more, it's widgets, if you will, in some respects, right? That has a programmed life expectancy. It's different for infrastructure. It ages differently in respective environments, but we're very disciplined on that as well. But that inventory has been growing and at a huge rate. That's what I want to come show you. Is like by 2030, we'll have doubled or tripled our number of elevators. We'll have doubled or tripled our number of ped bridges, doubled or tripled our parking garages, like the things that are harder to take care of, right? And that's what we're programming for now in that longer term. So yes.
Yeah,
The answer is yes.
Yes.
I know you said it at the beginning, you're fully funding what you believe is
Important.
the appropriate levels of maintenance.
Yes. For those items, yes.
I was just gonna add, I'm not looking to add any FTEs to the budget, but if we do come to you at some point in the future, it very well may be another facilities maintenance person for exactly the reason that Dallas just said. We have more facilities. We need more resources out there, just making sure that everything is in good working order.
We've had Mark on the hot seat for an hour. I want to be mindful of that, and also just everybody's time. Not seeing any other hands or questions, I would call for a motion to approve action.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Mr. Carantonis, second from Ms. Hayes. Any further conversation? All right, hearing none. Oh, Ms. Luna, how do you vote on item 9I?
Aye.
Wonderful, thank you. And all those in the room in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mark. I appreciate all the work on that. Okay, we have just a few quick remaining items. They are information items. Dallas, 10A.
10A, Operations Board Meeting Calendar. Leslie has done a good job looking at holidays, federal holidays, major religious holidays on the calendar, and put forward a proposed calendar. One of those conflicts was, for instance, Juneteenth in June. We'd like to propose rescheduling those. We get 11 times a year with you, and we appreciate every minute. And so we just want to make the most of that on the calendar. So that is that item.
Thank you. This isn't an action item, but if
Information.
Next month, it will be an action.
yeah, so just take a look at the proposal, and I'll just use this as a last sort of shout out to remind people the more notice as possible you can give if you need to be virtual. Partially so that IT and Leslie can plan for that, but also because there are actually rules about how many times you can be virtual and how many people we need for quorum. So this is just a broad shout out for that. Glance at the schedule, and if you already flagged things, please let us know. Item 10B.
Just spending authority report, one item on there, you can see at your discretion for WebTech Global Services. Purchase of the 43 new electric brake belts.
Any questions on the spending authority? All right. That brings us to Operations Board members' time. You'll go last. All right, so we have Mr. Stewart.
Well, first off, I absolutely and I know really the board and the community just give thanks for your leadership. Gosh, it's been a year that you never expected.
No.
Probably for yourself, and I'm sure you had plenty of time to do this, and you don't have much else going on in your life. I'm teasing, of course, because that's the nature of what we do, but it's also the passion that you led with, is making a difference in getting VRE to the next level, if you will. And we made some major decisions this year, and more importantly, I think we've made some major investments in how we get there. But Sarah, you've done an amazing job, wonderful job, and I want to particularly thank you for that. And I know Andrea has some shoes to fill.
You're actually quite small, but.
It's been a wonderful team, and we saw that really with the framework that we've done, as well as just, I think, the efforts and the decision making that we've done. So again, my thanks to you all particularly, but to my colleagues as well. And the holidays, Merry Christmas, really enjoy your time with your friends, relatives. I had a recent death in the family that reminds you even more, and I know that others here have too, that's really why we're here. It's not necessarily to sit at meetings and do the thing we do, which is important to care about, but there are things more important in our lives than this. Thank you.
Well, I want to echo your sentiments for sure. But I also want to just acknowledge my colleague Meg over here and also, being from the southern region and being new on our board, Meg really acted as such a mentor to me. Even though we're not in the same jurisdiction, she actually reached out and really brought me along where she didn't need to. She really helped me understand the importance of different boards and commissions to be on, being part of VACO and being very heavily involved in that. And, Meg, I can't express to you enough. I know I've mentioned it to you a few times, but how important your leadership has been to me. And I will be forever grateful. You've made me a better supervisor. Our friendship, I value so much. I'm going to miss you tremendously. Was very hard to watch your meeting the other night when people were, when Crystal was in tears over your retirement. But Stafford County has no idea what they've lost when you've stepped down from your seat. But I'm not going to let you go just because you're retiring. So don't block me on your phone. So I appreciate your leadership and your friendship, and thank you so much. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone.
Aligning and echoing everything, about our two last chairs. Thank you so much for for the leadership, the passion for making this always improving, but not only, linearly, but actually with an ambition and purpose. So thank you so much. That's for those of us, for me, who hasn't been here for so long. This was. It's always a good thing to land in a place where you see the pre-existing passion and the pre-existing work just blooming immediately in your able hands and able leadership. Sarah, awesome job. No corollaries can really show the deep appreciation for that. I think it is well felt right now that we are at the brink of a real change that, of course, it's material. So Dallas and everybody in the leadership here, we can feel the impact of your work, not only see it and appreciate it like an inside baseball thing, but see how others begin to see and how easy it has become to convey that and say, look, here, this is moving. This is really good stuff, and lean in and fund it. And that's not only a the preheating for the conversations with Delegatory, because I know that he's hearing already a lot. So, but maybe the most important thing for me is to see the many happy faces every time I go down to Crystal City to the VRE station. There is a palpable, a tangible satisfaction with the ridership. They appreciate the asset. They appreciate the public asset they're using, and I see that. And so do others who don't use it yet, but we would love to see how to use it. I mean, sometimes I stand on the promenade of our aquatic center. The trains are just crossing in the front, and kids looking at the trains, and their parents trying to explain to them, what these four. There are three tracks. The three tracks are four, and what they are, etc. So thank you for building that all, and I really am proud and grateful to be a part of it, or at least try to. So a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody. Still a couple of candles on the menorah 3 to go, and I hope everybody after this kind of a year gets a few days for reflection, and hopefully you never, Thank you.
Not to echo what everyone said, but Meg, I wish you a very restful retirement, well deserved. Sarah, thank you for your leadership. Meetings have been very efficient and well communicated, and that's very much appreciated. It's been nice. And thank you so much for the Santa train. So many happy faces. Thank you for making that possible. I know it was a big ask, but it was really fun. Something we look forward to every year. Happy winter holidays, everyone.
So I was lucky enough to serve on both the legal and CEO search committee, and to get to know some of your fellow search committee members, and Meg and Sarah, Andrea and Dan and others. And Sarah, you really got to know our personalities, what we were thinking, even without saying a word. And you really showed leadership in tough times, and through all the nuances that came with both those searches. So thank you. And you'll be, as you said, you'll be much missed. We'll still be around your area. We'll be in touch. And I did say that I opened up a lot of conversations in the searches with how great this board is, and I meant it. That you don't come with your outside agendas, your politics. You mentioned this earlier, Sarah, that you really want to do what's best for VRE and the riders. So that is genuinely appreciated. I hope I'll continue to stay on the board. There's be transition. I do want to thank Secretary Miller, the outgoing Secretary Chair, for his help, especially with the Norfolk Southern Manassas line deal, and also our Newer Valley deal. He was helpful at times, critical times, it's helpful at critical times with Norfolk Southern, that we got a good deal from them. So thank you to him and Governor Youngkin, Governor Youngkin spoke eloquently at, the event we had down in Newer Valley. He also spoke about the VRE deal. So thank you to them, but we do have some, an incoming Secretary of Transportation, Nick Donahue. That was one of the architects of transfer in Wayne, Virginia, phase 1 and phase 2. So Kate and others who know him were nodding their head. That was a great pick by Governor-elect Stanberger. So we look forward to working with him, and I think it's safe to say he's a friend of VRE and what we do here.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
In a letter from John Adams to Abigail Adams after his inauguration, George Washington walked up to him and said, "I am fairly out. You are fairly in. See which of us is the happiest." Cannot wait to see you when you join the ranks of Citizen Bucky.
Yeah. Thank you, Don.
I wish everybody the very happiest holiday seasons. It's been lovely getting to know you over the last couple of years, so I wish you all the very best in retirement. And as VRE Chair Loss, we are looking forward to Ms. Bagley being the NVTC Chair this coming year. And do hope that we don't have, we want an exciting, but not a personnel exciting, just an exciting, exciting year.
Regular exciting.
But again, and actually, Supervisor Stark, I actually really appreciate your words because it is about relationships, you know, and so, sorry, you just got something, I got a little, as I wait for my college kid to come home on a flight that's delayed. So happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy holidays, Meg. Again, thank you. It's been a pleasure to serve on many boards with you. And you know, hopefully don't block anyone, you know, get calls from Fredericksburg
I'll
too.
see you in the city.
You'll totally see me, yeah, coming out of the tennis place there. I wanted to also thank Dallas and Mark, you know, through this transition. It's been really important to have, you know, both of your leadership. And so I totally appreciate that. And the write-up for the budget, you know, you get to look through a lot of different budgets, being on a lot of boards and commissions, and it was really helpful to have the narrative. So thank you. Sarah, thank you. I know this is not the year that you probably planned for, but thank you so much. And Commissioner Bailey, thank you for your willingness to serve, and congratulations. I'm honored to be part of the executive board, and happy holidays to everyone.
I just want to also thank Mark and Dallas and the rest of the team here. You guys really are a team. As I heard in the sauna at the YMCA, somebody knows somebody's relative that works for VRE, and you know, they talked about what a family organization VRE is. And I think all of us can agree with that. I do want to thank Sarah for your leadership for both searches was really just unbelievable. The phone calls, the emails, and you had to do a lot more. You were traveling, you were in Florida for this and that, and you really managed a lot. Yeah. I did. You had a broken arm.
That's
Yeah.
She's like a whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a lot going on. Your dog in a video.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all good, but I am really just so really very happy that I had an opportunity to get to know all of you, especially many of you through VACO. And what a great organization VACO is. Bob, I appreciate you coming to all the FAMPO meetings. Or sending an alternate, but typically you were there for most of it and chimed in when time was appropriate. And so just very excited for this board, and I'll be watching the VRE and MVTC websites and seeing what's going on. And I wish you guys the greatest. What?
I'm sure you're welcome.
Well done. And lastly, I just want to let you know that financial memo that Dallas sent out that had a lot of information from Mark, I'm sure the two of you worked together on that. I forwarded that to my entire board and said, you know, in my absence, whoever takes on the VRE, this is really the nutshell of what happens at VRE with the financial situation as it exists right now. So anyway, Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah, you get the last word.
Oh, I get the last word. Miss Bailey.
I'm just letting everybody else go. So, first of all, I do, want to thank Meg. You are a joy, absolute joy to work with. We've shared a lot of stories and a lot of legislation between Baco and here. Yes. And so I do respect your leadership so highly. So thank you for your service. And happy holidays to you. To my boss. Sarah and I have had a great time working together, and she is everything that everyone has said. Your leadership is impeccable. And I meant what I said about inclusivity. That it has to do with us making a decision, and you're really good at that. And that's the Esquire in you. But you have led us through a lot of opportunities here on this board, which we've been quite successful at. And so we are grateful. We are so grateful for your leadership. And then to the Mark and Dallas duo, y'all are awesome. You rock, and you keep us level, and you give us the right information so that we are in the right spaces and the right time. And so thank you so much for your leadership as well. And I want to say thank you for the board entrusting your thoughts, your decisions, your everything. To me as chair, I am honored to serve in this way. I do have tough shoes to fill. They're 5.5, so I wear 7, I don't know. But she always picks up the phone for me, and I know she will continue to do that. We're in the region together, so we're partners. And so just thank you for entrusting your confidence in me. I have 2 more things and I'll be quiet. Most of you know, some of you know, but maybe not. Yesterday I funeralized my mom. No, it's okay. And I'm saying that to say, back to what Dan just said, relationships matter. I was really blown away by the people that attended my mom's memorial service. She will have a family funeral on Monday. We're going to St. Louis tomorrow. But the relationships from the region that showed up, it really warmed my heart. And so what we are doing as history makers here in this table, in this region, is very impactful. And so we can't lose that at all. So I wanted to say that. Lastly, we are a phoenix at VRE coming out of the ground, and we are just about to do some amazing things. And so let's lock arms together to do so. And with that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
And Miss Bailey's lovely comments remind me that I don't want to forget Miss Luna online. Sonia, did you have any board member comments here at the end? I'm sorry that I didn't come to you sooner.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you, Manager. I appreciate it. I wanna thank, the board for supporting the appointments and also the hard work of our appointments committee. I don't know if they were volunteer or volunteer, but I truly appreciate it. And I believe, the appointments are a reflection of, who everybody is and how you make it a priority. Madam Chair, thank you for a whole year. I don't know if you did sign up for it, but so many things that this board has accomplished, led by you, from seeing a board member going to Congress now, which it's great, and we know to make be a priority, and remember beer as well. I also want to congratulate Supervisor Margaret Franklin, who won her primary, and I believe she might be soon to be a delegate. And I don't know, like, I'm still learning a few things, but I just want to make sure as a member of this team that I congratulate her. But it's so many great things. We have a new attorney, which she has been working really hard, and now we have a new CEO. I also want to take the time for to thank all the staff and everybody that work on filling these 2 great positions. Everybody has worked hard to make the transition from retirement to today seamless, and that is a reflection of how BRE as a whole is a family. So thank you to all the current board members and the upcoming board members for all the hard work. I want to close by saying I saw many Christmas colors. It was great to see as you come in and, holiday colors. I truly enjoy it. I want to say the Santa train, it was a big day, but it was enjoyed not only by the young, but also by the adults. Thank you to the staff for helping me and secure a couple. Also, they were so helpful. I was there on the morning train, and as staff volunteers, they were so proud. I talked to a member that I don't want to say her name, but she has been volunteering for so many years, and they take pride on what they do. So I just want to make sure that they know that as a board member, I'm thankful for what they have been doing, but they are making lifetime memories, a happiness for these future VRE passenger. That's what I call it. And I believe it was great, and it was a great success. It was also a reminder that unless you're on time on the train, you're gonna miss the train. They were able to accommodate some couple of families that were late, but I just want to say, all the events that happen through the year, it is just great to see how the team works really hard and how everybody comes together for the success of VRE as a whole, and also of continuing to partner with all the different boards and entities that we have to work with. So with that, Feliz Navidad, Prospero Año Nuevo, and hugs from El Salvador.
Thank you so much. I think Meg's just giving us a chance to fet her on the way. Thank you, Ms. Vasquez Luna. I took pride this year in running efficient meetings, and so I'm going to make my comments here very efficient. I want to thank one more person. I do appreciate all the acknowledgement of Mark and Dallas's work. Mark and Dallas look good because their staffs also work very hard, as do the other departments. And I also want to acknowledge Leslie, who runs the documents we receive and the quorum calls and keeping us on task here. So thank you very much for that. Your comments, everybody's comments about family. My mom's train is heading north and rolling up to Fredericksburg any minute. So I'm just as eager as the rest of you. So if I can leave any kind of mark, it is just that this service, this board is special due to its regionalism, due to its actual bipartisanship, in a time when sort of that's, concerning. We practice that here on a monthly basis in a really lovely way. And we show that it can be real and it can be productive. And I want to thank all of you for participating in that and upholding that vision. I can't thank staff enough. If I ever sound informed up here, it's because some staff member has informed me. So thank you, to Dallas and to everyone at VRE for supporting my tenure here, to all of you for showing up, for answering my calls, my texts, my emails. I can't thank all of you enough. This doesn't, it takes a whole team, and that's what we really have here at the VRE board, an active whole team. So have a wonderful holiday, everybody. Please drive carefully, take the train if you can. And I look forward to seeing you all in January. Thank you so much. We're adjourned.
Yeah, my son. I text him and he's like, yeah, tomorrow. And he's like, oh, I have no power at the airport. And I said, you're gonna take everybody. So what I got it. I told 19. He's like, it's a mistake. He's a resilient kid. That is a job. I will be too. I have a my little sunshine.